All right. Good morning. Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome, welcome, and thank you so much for being willing to come on and talk with us and tell us your story. So,
Absolutely.
Amanda, I am so glad you're here. Go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about you, just who you are, where you're from, what you do.
I'm Amanda. I live in Maryland, western part of Maryland, and I am a nurse. Um, I've done inpatient nursing and now I'm doing home health nursing.
Okay. Awesome. I love my nurses. They are such good people, such a good heart, and that's been something I've just loved about you for sure. So let's kind of tell your story about us working together. So I want to kind of go back and like set the stage. If you wouldn't mind, kind of go back in time and tell me what was your biggest struggle before you found the Think Eat Win program and we started working together.
I feel like I struggled a lot with consistency. I would kind of white knuckle it for a while, and then that only lasts so long. I would lose my willpower, and I'd end up binge eating, and then I would feel terrible about myself. I felt powerless to change it. It was just kind of this never ending cycle. And I think every time it happened, I used it as proof in my mind that I'm not strong enough to do this. Food has control over me, basically.
That's a pretty discouraging place to be. So you felt kind of
Very.
like out of control, sounds
Yes,
like. Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. And had this been like you mentioned that you'd lost weight and regained it multiple times? Had this been
Yeah.
something that's been going on for you for many years?
Yeah, I was an emotional eater starting from probably 11, 12. I would kind of squirrel food away in my room for times when I felt really bad. And then I would binge eat. And it kind of depended what was going on in my life as to how well I was doing with my eating. I would say, yeah. And I had lost weight. I had lost, I'd say, about 80 pounds and stayed pretty well in that range, but I had just totally plateaued. I couldn't get past that. And I thought, well, I guess this is as good as it gets.
Okay. So you'd lost some weight, you'd come to a place where you'd kind of stalled out, but you wanted to lose more. Like
Yeah.
how much more did you feel like you had to go?
Um, I wanted to lose probably another 75 pounds, but I just
Okay.
felt stuck where
So
I was.
yeah, a pretty substantial amount that you still wanted to go.
Right.
So how did you kind of get to that point? Like how did you lose that weight before you met me?
Um, I had been on some medications, I think, that contributed to the weight issues. But a big thing for me actually was I figured out I was gluten intolerant. I had so much pain and inflammation all the time, and then that would cause me to want to eat more. And once I cut out gluten, I was able to start walking. So I walked, and this was over a course of years that I lost some weight. Well, I mean, I lost a pretty significant amount, but compared to how much I wanted to lose, I just felt like I was stuck again.
Yeah. Okay. So what you had been doing had gotten you pretty far, but it wasn't getting you all the way to
Yeah,
your goal.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. And so you were kind of stuck in this place. How are you feeling there? How was that kind of showing up in your life?
It really affected my self-confidence. Yeah, just I felt like it was harder to just truly be myself because all I could think about was my appearance and feeling bad about myself. My self-esteem was pretty low, even
Mm.
though I'd lost weight. And there were times where I thought, I would have at one point loved to have been at this spot. And I thought I'll feel so much better about myself. But I was starting to see it's not just the weight itself, that was affecting my self-esteem. That's where I thought the issue was, but there was much more underneath
Mm.
that was going on.
Okay, wow. Yeah, interesting. And I think a lot of people that follow me are starting to recognize that too. They're like, I've tried the
Mhm.
diet. I think it's something deeper that I'm really looking for. And maybe the weight is just a kind of an outward symptom of what's happening deeper inside. Does that
Yeah,
kind of relate to what you're saying?
it does, and I think sometimes I even looking back, I think there were times maybe I used food to try to make the outside look the way the inside felt, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah, that's a like a self-sabotage right there, right?
Yeah, yeah, it really was.
Yeah, and you've kind of gained these insights from doing quite a bit of work on yourself, and you've really been committed to, progress and healing, especially
Mhm.
not just the weight and the food, but emotionally. And
Yeah.
so one thing I do remember when we first met was you told me that you'd been on an emotional healing journey for a couple of years. So, tell me about that and how you feel like that helped you also get to this point.
I think it helped get me to the point where I felt like it was always something I wanted, but maybe not something I felt like I deserved. Um, that I didn't deserve good things in my life. So I think it finally got me to the point where my self-confidence came up enough to see I need to do something I'm worth investing in. And trying to do whatever I can to make the best life I can for myself.
Wow. So really that tension between I know that I want better, but I have this deeper sense of inadequacy that's really holding me back. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's such a common place that we get to. And so it's really cool that, we're able to talk about that and that you can kind of look back and say, this is kind of where I was. So tell me, like, when you found me, like we started talking on Instagram, right?
Mhm.
And just kind of, shot the breeze a little bit and kind of talked about like what your goals were, what your obstacles might be. And so then we hopped on a call and we went over like what I offer here in the Think Eat Win program. So tell us why at that point, before you'd even started, at that point, why did you decide to go ahead and jump in and do this?
Um, I I was nervous. I was very nervous to do it. I will admit I wasn't sure if I was strong enough to do what the program and I actually didn't really even know entirely what the program was going to entail, but I just think I had gotten to a point where I was like, I can't live like this for another day. I had to make a change. And on our call, I just could see how supportive and caring you were. And I think talking to you, it put me at ease, and it felt like, okay, this isn't going to be a drill sergeant that's like, these are the rules and you have to follow them, and I'm going to slap your fingers if you don't, anything like that. Just that sense of support that I felt like I really needed and had been missing in my weight loss journey.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm so glad that came through. So did that play out the way you were hoping? Do you
Absolutely.
feel like, that was what you needed and it's what you got?
Even more than I thought I might get. Yes. I've gotten so much support from you. I've got a lot of health issues going on, as you know, and it was amazing to be able to bounce ideas off of you and be like, hey, I'm dealing with this. What's the best way I can support myself with nutrition right now? Because, some things where my body needed time to heal, and you were able to give me very specific advice on how to deal with that. But also, there was always this just acceptance of whether I had a good week or a bad week, whether I felt good about myself, bad about myself. It was okay. You were just there to help support me in whatever way I needed, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, I mean, one of the hallmarks of my program is that it's individual and that, your success is my top priority. And so, and I invest in
Yeah.
you. So it really is like a big life change and a big commitment to be like, I'm going all in. So
Mhm.
okay, so you jumped in. Tell me about kind of because I kind of remember the early weeks and months of the program. Like you mentioned, like fear, and you're not sure you were
Mhm.
strong. Do you remember that time? Like, how was that for you as you started going through the program and things started to change internally and externally for you?
It was pretty tough, I will say. It was very tough. I can remember um, one thing I was not expecting when we started just mindfulness with my food. I would really taste my food, and I got so emotional. I would cry every time I ate because it was like it was almost like all those emotions that I used food to suppress were starting to come up and come out of me. Um, and so it was a very emotional time, but yet very cathartic, I think, too, to feel
Yeah.
like I'm getting past that, and then I started to see I can enjoy food. I can actually taste my food rather than just, like, inhaling it. Um, that it was a process, but it was looking back now, it's kind of a beautiful journey. I'm not sure if it felt beautiful in the moment, but, being on the other side of it is really kinda cool to look back and see that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fear of going through that because it is uncomfortable and it does bring up a lot of emotions that we've been trying to avoid our whole lives.
Mhm.
Um, through that alone is a really terrifying prospect. So, like, do you think that made a difference for you to have, the structure of a program and a coach who's available? Like, did that make a difference for you in being able to get through that part?
Oh, absolutely. I think had I not had somebody I could message about it and get support back, I'm afraid I would have just given up after the first experience like that because I was like, "Whoa, I don't know what to do with this." But you were so um compassionate, I guess, during that time and really helped me to just feel whatever I'm feeling. And it's not label it so much and say this is bad and I can't feel this, but to just feel the good along with the bad.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's really powerful. That's really powerful. I love it. So let's talk about um, all the therapy that you've done, emotional healing. What was missing with all of that that you found here? Maybe specifically with food, but even beyond that.
Definitely the food component. I mean, I kind of touched on things that I think I used food to try to suppress or to, get through emotionally. But one thing I really loved was we talked about it with cravings, but it applies with so many other things. Just being comfortable with sitting with it. So now sometimes when I'm really sad or, depressed, something's going on and I'm like, you know what? Just come over here. This emotion, just sit with me. We're just going to sit and feel it and that acceptance of it rather than just trying to get rid of those feelings, accepting them because, the more you fight it, the stronger it gets. And that has really helped me, I think, in regards to food, but in regards to other things as well. And that's what I love about this program, that it was not strictly nutrition. It went so much deeper because I think if you just looked at in my case, I know if you just looked at the food, it was going to be a band aid. But we got to the root of the issue, which actually helps fix it rather than, just putting a Band-Aid on and then 6 months down the road back in the same old habits.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. So you mentioned that you were an emotional eater.
Mhm.
How do you feel about that label on yourself now? Do you still identify that way?
Um, I feel the urges more when I feel really emotional, but I think I've found other outlets to really deal with those emotions that I wouldn't call myself an emotional eater anymore.
Yeah,
I've learned other more healthy ways to deal with the emotions that I'm feeling.
that's amazing. So where do you see that taking you as you continue your journey into the future now?
I feel like in the past, food felt like it controlled me, and now I am in control of it. And so even though get to the end of the program, I finally feel like I have confidence that I can continue to lose weight even without the as close support and things like that because I have the tools now that I need, and I can lose weight and I can keep it off. I feel very confident in that.
Yeah. So you're not worried that it's all going to come back on when you finish the program or anything
I'm
like
I'm really not. And that's a new feeling for me because anytime I would lose weight, I'm like, well, it's just a matter of time till it comes right back on. And I was setting myself up for failure. But now I know that I'm going to be able to lose weight and keep it off.
yeah, that confidence and that calm and peace and
Mhm.
knowing you have what it takes is it's a game changer, right?
It
I love
really
that.
is. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us, like, how much have you lost just in the time that we've been working together?
I think I've lost between 30 and 35 pounds, somewhere in there. And quite frankly, I would say it probably could have been more. Health issues have come up where I haven't been very active. I haven't some of the like intermittent fasting, some of those things we talked about, it might not be the time to do that because my body needs better fuel to heal. But I can't imagine going through some of the things that I have eating the way that I did before. I hate to think where I would be. I know that my body is healing better. I'm recovering from things better just because I'm fueling it with things it needs now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So good. Yeah, so, like, all the health challenges that you've gone through since we've been working together, we've been talking about the nutrition of it all, but, like, if you hadn't learned these tools, if you hadn't jumped into this program when you did, do you think you would have come through those challenges as well as you did?
I really, really don't think so. No. I feel like I'm finally able to listen to my body and what it truly needs. The other day, for example, I got home and I looked in my refrigerator and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to eat what I plan to eat. What else do I have?" And I just wanted to reach for junk food. And I made myself stop and I was like, "Okay, I know this is just, my brain right now telling me what it wants, but what does my body actually need right now?" And I was like, I feel run down. I feel, all these things. And so I felt equipped to reach for the healthy choice and say, this is what my body needs. And to be able to say it out loud, kind of just show myself, I care about you enough to make a good choice right now.
Wow. So you're really challenging that deeper sense of inadequacy and really proving to yourself that you are worth it and that you can
Yeah.
do it. That's awesome. I love it. So, jumping in to Think Eat When and working with me, like, I really ask you to commit, like, at a
Mhm.
high level. So, and investing in yourself emotionally, mentally, even financially Would you say that like that investment that you had to make, that commitment, was it worth it to you?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt, it was worth it. Yeah, financially, it was like, oh, I feel like I'm going to go out on a limb, but I really need to make a change. And I was worried about, do I have the time? I just felt run down all the time. And adding one more thing in, actually, it was surprising how much it freed up mentally. Um, it took some of the stress off of my mind because I didn't realize how much I thought about food, how much I tried to resist food. And it took some of that burden away, which gave me time to process through things, and all of that. And so I feel like the investment in every way was well worth it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. And when you do it the right way, it feels so much easier than all the other attempts that we've made in the past, right? That's one of the biggest differences. And that's how you know you're doing it right. That's how you know it's sustainable because it actually makes your life easier and it makes you feel better inside. That's how you know it's going to last. So,
Mhm.
love that. So, what would you say to somebody who's maybe in the exact place that you were in 6 months ago, who's thinking about like, I don't, maybe this program would work for me, but I don't know. I feel like I've tried everything. What would
Mhm.
you say to that person?
I would say, please, please do it. Please do. You are worth it. You are worth investing in. You're worth, your health is worth it. What you will gain. So I feel like what I've gained far surpasses the weight that I've lost, actually. Um, I've lost weight, but I've gained so much more confidence. Just my self esteem has gone up, and it's not strictly dependent on the number on the scale anymore. I don't know how much we've talked about it, but I used to have issues too with, I think, some body dysmorphia. Some days I saw myself differently, and that really hasn't been an issue lately. I think even that has changed dramatically. So I would say please, and please do it.
Oh wow, that's powerful. Yeah, you've just been an awesome example of what can be possible when you learn to take charge of your mind, to
Mhm.
become aware of how your brain is kind of jerking you around right now and telling you a whole lot of nonsense that you're believing and you're acting on. And that energy just carries into every area of your life. And you've really just like completely turned that around. So thanks for being such an inspiration. Um, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to add? Any last words before we wrap up?
I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I truly mean that, for all of the support that you've given me. There were times where you've gone above and beyond, in every way, and I really appreciate that. And your kindness has helped change my life.
I'm so glad. I love that. I'm so glad that you were willing to take that chance on yourself because us together, that's how, it was really you, right? I'm just glad to have been a little bit of a support along the way. But you're a strong woman and you're an inspiration. So thank you again for coming on and being willing to share your experience with us. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you.
Okay, see you later.
All right, bye.